It's the evening walk around and I got here just in time to see more deliveries. Rocky fill apparently. And there's a second truck, but I'll pass on hanging around for that. And the fifth window grill is, what's that, probably 7/8 done. And from looking at that one and one behind it and the others, all of the intersections of the rods are welded, so they will be bloody strong, which is consistent with the rest of the shed. And as you can hear, the rice factory is running. Both machines. They got we were cleaning up the rice before they put it in the polisher. So we've got a start on the pole at the corner of the fence, the end of the fence here, which we're going to put a lamp on, but I'd like to see it go at least 2 metres higher. And they're obviously starting to do a bit of form work prior to putting a lid on the septic tank. Should show you the evaporation rate around here. The standing water is reduced to a few puddles. It hasn't been long. Okay, so they're doing another run over the surface to make it beautiful on the front here, which presumably is what they're going to do on the rest of the outside and then the inside. Pathway is continuing. So they're rendering the inside of the garden bed walls down to a certain depth also, which is probably a bit redundant. Dadang's emptying out the mixing pit at the end of the day, so might as well use it up. It looks like there's some preparation work here in front of the doorway, because we're going to want a pretty good base here. I'd want much more substantial concrete than what's in that car park, because a 4.5 ton machine driving over it is going to put a hell of a stress on it. I don't want it crumbling. I know that in there it won't. Although I think they are still talking about putting another 50 millimetres of concrete as a final layer. It's the morning walk around. It's a bit dull out, but there's still a net positive on the solar power input, so the batteries are charging up. But yeah, the rocky fill pile is obviously diminished from the 2 truckloads, and it's moving at the back. So finishing up on the final window grill, and yep, it's good, yes. And they're applying sort of the rough prevention to the welds over there by the look of it. But these will actually get painted up. I think I said paint them white, I can't remember now. I want everything to be white as much as possible inside the building for maximum light. Oh, let's go look at the building. I see why it looks a bit dull out. That sky looks a bit threatening. But yeah, they're still working on prettying up the outside of the building. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't need to be a pretty building. It's basically an industrial building. But these guys obviously don't want the work to go away. From what Jabida was telling me, people have already been heard lamenting that the job will be finished soon, at which point they'll be out of work. So obviously they want it to drag on. Guys over there are working on the reinforcement for the top of the septic tank. Must remember not to drive over that part. So they're mixing more of the rice husks into the soil over here and transferring it over into the back section while the rendering is being completed. There's still work going on. There's still work going on down at waste facility apparently. Oh, we'll go down there sometime and find out what they're up to. It's the turn of the columns at this end now. So on the, well, I'm looking at the west face of that column at the moment, but on the south face of it is where the electrical switchboard is going to go. So the sooner they get that done and painted, the better as far as I'm concerned, because I can start to install electrics. So they've done the outside here, so now we're going to do the inside of the thing and make it nice and smooth prior to painting. Tide hasn't come in much, but as is customary in Indonesia, rubbish is just thrown anywhere. A bit disappointing. Giving the surface a bit of texture there so that the new coating will grab, and also pulling the line of it back so that when he has coated it, the surfaces will be aligned with the columns. So there's cement sheet over a wooden frame, and I wonder if this will be thickened up to be more than just level with the surface of the car park here, because that wouldn't make it very thick. My purchase of power tools and bringing them here has made these guys' life a lot easier. But I guess it's also made the job quicker, which means they're out of work that much sooner. I see Tig on the stand at the back of Lisa's house. Wow, it's in place, but plumbing hasn't been done yet. And it's after lunch walk around. As expected, it rained. Rocky fill's reduced. Let's go and see if we can figure out where it's going. Work continues on the window grills. I don't think the juice is really helping that much. The tractor's come back from wherever it was hired out to. It's been washed out a bit. Oh, great. That's alright. And had a crap earlier, so I didn't need to do a crap on that. Those chickens are not supposed to be in there, I'm sure. Well, they've prepared the reinforcement for on top. Not quite sure why it's off again. Oh well. Maybe we'll figure that out later. So we're going to have very nice smooth walls which can take paint nicely. So we get the string lines up so we can get these columns to line up to. It's going to be interesting to see how much of a mess we have to make of that wall just above those shelves there on the columns, because the 6 metre long beams will not have their ends end up in the middle of that shelf there. It'll be more towards the left, which is not good because you want the beams to the left to have adequate support. It's all going to be interesting. Always is. This might be some of that new rocky fill. Well, it's my guess that's where the tractors come from. Heading up those little rice fields, rice paddies. Why those two and none others have been done is mystery to me. Could be the fact that they're owned by somebody independent who's hired the tractor to do that bit. Much of what goes on around here is mystery to me. But it looks like we've got this garden bed full now. So, wonder when it'll get planted out. Looks like they've put soil in there to raise the floor level. Wonder what happens next. But yeah, Jabita thought it was going to be closer, more like up here. She's not that fond of walking down there too close to that cemetery. And the other question is, okay, how do you get there? Do you walk along the canal, or we're going to have a separate path there? And this side here, it's a bit mucky too, so do we need to continue that walkway between the garden beds? We need to continue that down here further. So I'm sure it's all a scheme to make necessary to make more concrete. Well, it's pretty warm and steamy out here, so I think I'll go back to my nice air-conditioned lounge room and cool down again. And we'll see what's changed when we get to the after dinner walk around. The trucks have to go past my lounge room to get here, and thus I noticed them. But these have both got loads of cement bags on them, so I think I need to ask for an updated count of how many bags of cement were bought for this project. Note to self, don't drive there, over the septic tank. So the access to it now would have to be via that overflow pipe, the first pipe here. So presumably if they need to drain it, a hose can be jammed in there. And I see we are doing a kickboard, skirting rail, whatever you want to call it, on the bottom of the fence, all the way down to the end of the building, at least. Now we have more rocky fill here, I think. And this guy is starting with the wall that's going to be a low wall that's going to be along the front, these first two panels, and up to the end of the canal here. And that's going to be up to where you see that mark on the column. That's actually going to be a seating position for the little tiled area here. It's the after dinner walk around, and yes, the rocky fill is further reduced. Well, the 5 window grills appear to be complete. There's still lots of the rod they were using for it over there, plus some box tubing here, square and rectangular, and the angle iron. Now the angle iron hopefully is for the surrounds of the service pit and for armouring the columns and doorway in the shed, so that things hitting those don't chip off big bits of concrete. Some of this may be for doing the lid for the pit. Just guessing. Well, it looks like the inside of the front wall up to the doorway is finished, so then they've got that side to do. which is a bit less than half. Those two columns largely done. Those two columns are largely done, which leaves the four in the middle. And those bits of angle I was talking about, they'll go on the corners here so that if we got something suspended from the crane, it doesn't bash against there and cause damage, or if there's a sort of accidental vehicle strike from the other side, and provide some reinforcement. And yes, that is where the rocky fill is coming to. And this is the intended place for this sheet of reinforcement mesh. That will provide strengthening for the approach to the doorway that I'm standing in. And the idea at the corner of this is that this will provide a buttress for this end of the wall. I would prefer actually if it was tied in to the pillar at that end, but I don't think it has been. And sort of drill holes into it and insert some short iron rods would be good. But yeah, so this section here and between the next two pillars, that'll just be a wall for people to sit on while facing the front of the building. Well, I hope they've left enough of the pipe exposed there for those valves to be fitted on, because I suppose they need to have some way to be sealed up at the end there, because that's the water coming out of those tanks, and sometimes we don't want it to. I won't step in this last bit of concrete here because it looks like it's still wet. Okay, it looks like they've built up a elevated walkway here. Maybe that'll get rocks on it too eventually to provide a path that isn't going to turn into a quagmire when it rains. And from here it looks like they've built up and smoothed out the floor level in there. Still not quite sure of the theory of operation of this thing. Aha! I've discovered more of the rocky fill. It's gone into this walkway between the plant beds, garden beds. It may get pounded down and concreted by the look of it. I have no idea whether any of this is the supports from inside the tanks. I don't know whether the support work has been pulled out of those yet or not. No rush, I guess. It's morning walk around and movement of rocky fill continues. Surprise, surprise, rained overnight. Just for a bonus, we had a 5.5 earthquake this morning. So that was, it was just a single pulse of movement, and so everybody out of their house as usual. And I have my standing question of, okay, how do we know when it's safe to go back if we're going to get out? To which there is no answer. So yeah, it's about 100 kilometres south of here, that, and 57 kilometres deep, so it wasn't real close. But let's go and see what else has happened. When I got here earlier, Ezra said they were ready to start painting, so we went and got the air compressor and the paint gun and so forth. So I think I'll clear it out before I start spraying paint. But you'll see there's a bit of a wet patch to the left of the compressor there. I used the dump valve at the bottom and dumped out quite a bit of moisture, and some of it was going a bit orangey red colour, so I think I might be rusting the inside of that pressure chamber. Okay, well, hopefully it goes okay. But there's 3 different adjustment knobs on there, apart from the pressure regulator, which I've already told him, no, that's supposed to be 2 pooler. So let's see how much paint he uses up doing this. Hey. I'll have a drain here, which will be the extent of the concrete. But I've had a quick look at the building and I can't see any cracks, which I didn't really expect with a mere 5.5 anyway. I said to Jabida that instead of just running out of the house, we probably should run over and stand inside this building. This will be the strongest place around. But yeah, all good. And the spray painting begins. Yeah, well, I'll stand well back. Avoid getting paint on the camera lens. That compressor's severely undersized for this job. But that's what I've got. I'd really like about a 50 litre tank to just slave off that, pump it up and then just use the pressure from the tank and let the little compressor try to catch up periodically. I just downloaded all of the video from the camera and we're already up to a long enough video to upload. Just as I did that, Ezra sent me video shot from inside the rainwater tanks, and they're stripping the formwork out from inside those. They look pretty good. The only suggestion I had was that perhaps we should tile the support columns as well to reduce the water to concrete contact. So we'll probably get that done. And at the moment, he's rolling the rocky fill backwards and forwards with the machine to crush it down. Yeah, anyway, I'll go and tack this on the end of my video and upload it. I tried to incorporate the video that Ezra sent me, but because that was portrait format on his mobile phone, when I try to combine it into my video, it gets converted to landscape, which means it's actually just stretched, and the aspect ratio is no good then. So you'll just have to imagine it, I'm afraid. Okay, so maybe you don't really have to imagine it.
Quality, good.